This is Andrew Guy for AndrewGuySpeaks.com. I'm reminding you that I'm impacting life for a better tomorrow. Today we're talking about how to live debt-free. How to live debt-free. Now, when I talk about debt-free, I'm not talking about Dave Ramsey. I'm not talking about the financial gurus who are talking about how to get out of financial debt, how to pay off your debt, how to consolidate. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the type of debt that will set you free. I'm talking free indeed. And let's talk about debt for a minute. When you talk about debt, it's like you owe. You owe somebody something. It doesn't always have to be tied to money. But the debt that I'm talking about is that ability to live free of stress, free of guilt, free of remorse. That's the type of freedom I'm talking about. There are a lot of people nowadays, I'm at the light, there are a lot of people nowadays who are in debt, not financially, but they are in debt emotionally to a spouse, to a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or to their children. Some parents are, and some people are even nationwide. Like, countries are warring against each other because literally they're in debt. You have an international debt, you have a national debt, you have a community debt where you have people feel like others owe them something. There is this big, oh, you know what, you owe me, or because you did something to me, then guess what, I'm gonna get you back. This get you back notion has to do with debt. It's a debt crisis where I feel that you have taken something from me and you haven't paid me back. And so in order to get back, I either have to retaliate with force, obviously a type of force that's gonna outwit you. Wars or fight over this. Millions, trillions, a lot of money go down the drain every year, every week, every month, every second, just because of this debt crisis. And the debt crisis I'm talking about is the unwillingness to work together, that level of infectious unforgiveness, wherein that someone did you something or some country did you something, so you feel that you have to do something to get back to them, and you spend the rest of your life trapped in that cycle where you feel like you have to fight your way, dig your way out just to get even. And even when you get even, you're not even because you know what? The resource and the time that it took for you to actually get even, you end up being broke and in more debt, as in a financial debt, because you have to borrow that money to actually fight those wars. Countries all over the world are in debt right now because of that depth of unforgiveness, that unwillingness to work together, that unwillingness to say, you know what, to accept our differences and say, you know what, let's try to work this out. That's the type of debt that I'm talking about. And as human beings, we don't have to be a country. We can just be an individual who live together or work together or play together on a certain team. And if we have that unforgiveness inside of us, it's like a debt that we're actually carrying. It weighs us down. It ties us. We're actually tied. Look at it like this. If you borrow a loan from someone to get a mortgage or to start a business, like, which are most common loans nowadays, and if you borrow this loan, you will find that you have to provide vital information to the actual lender. As the borrower, you are basically now, as the Bible put it, you're now slave. You now become a slave to the person that loaned you the money. The same is true when you are in bondage emotionally, debt-wise, to an individual who did you something some years ago. And I know I mentioned this one time in a past video that most African American are in debt, not financially, but they're in debt to the quote-unquote white man, because they believe that the white people have done them something, and so they need to, even until they reach the grave, they need to get their 40 acres and a mule. Consequently, it was stated that when the slaves were free, that they were promised 40 acres and a mule and so forth. So and as far as I'm going to go with that. But because of this debt now, they feel tied to this notion that I cannot move on, or I am inhibited because of this man, so to speak. And this man is not a physical man. It's a notion. It's a concept. It's a lack of unforgiveness. It's something that has occurred in the past. Yes, it has. Yes, it happened to my people. But the thing is that I can't live in the 21st century and hold the things that happened to Harriet Tubman. As a matter of fact, if it weren't for those ancestors, those slaves that fought and dug in the trench, I wouldn't be here today. So instead of living in resentment or in that debt, then what I need to do is to be thankful for what they did, because now I have an opportunity to live out some of the dreams that they have. And that's the power about getting out of debt. When you get out of debt, really what you're doing, you are now freeing yourself. Remember what I said, the Bible talks about the borrower, and simply mean, and that's powerful. Let's look at the word borrow. It's a temporary spot that you initially plan to be in only for a temporary space of time. But a lot of people live their life in a state of permanency, a permanent debt, because a debt's supposed to be something temporary, where you borrow some money just to pay it back until you get off your feet, so to speak. But a lot of people have borrowed emotional debt, which they have basically mortgaged their life away with this debt, and they will never get out of it if they don't let it go. And so my goal today is to get you to wake up and say, look, other than financial, are there some debt that are in your life that are holding you back? Are there some debt that are in your life that are hindering you from moving forward? Are there some debt that are just causing you emotional stress, loss of sleep, loss of peace, or just misery? Are there some of those there? If you can think of at least two, you have too much, all right? And you need to work on trying to let these things go, let these people go, and then be free, literally. You're supposed to be debt-free, not just financially. But you know what? The funny thing is, you can owe money and still be free. You can still owe money and be happy, but you can have a financial debt and still be happy. But if you have an emotional debt, an emotional tie to a heavy weight, it can be heavier than, more stressful than, take away your way of life, your way of being, compared to a financial debt. Sometimes it's freer to owe money than to owe people financially. I mean mentally, emotionally. So my goal today is, after watching this video, man, send it to somebody, because I guarantee you somebody needs to be free. Get out of debt. Not financial, but emotional. Don't tie yourself to anybody. They don't deserve that. And guess what? They're not worth all that. If it's gonna cost you your happiness, if it's gonna cost you your livelihood, it's not worth it at all. Alright? So get out of debt. This is Andrew Guy for AndrewGuySpeaks.com. I'm reminding you that I'm impacting lives, so better tomorrow. What about you? Let's live debt-free. Peace.